So this will be episode 6 of art overview, past works, current works, past path, current path. Today is the 11th of March. So I'll just show you these ones real quick because I'm actually in the middle of making a photo book. And I didn't know that I'd be doing something like this in my life, but here I am doing something like this in my life. And the reason why I'm doing something like this is because, well, it feels good. I have no other way to explain the kind of feeling I get other than saying like, oh, like it's something that feels good. And so I can go on and show you plenty of, like, I'd love for people to see this stuff. And ultimately, like look at how, like, I have enough. It's just I'm gonna keep going because day by day, depending on whatever it is that I'm tapped into, like you're gonna get, like you're just gonna get something. And I mean, it's gonna change from time to time, but like everything from urban to like what is natural, right? And so this is like it tells a story. Like all of it tells a story. And there's so much that goes on in my life and the messages and the beautiful ways that I'm able to share that with people is with photos because like anyone can look at a photo and I don't need to speak the same language as you as long as you could see it. And even going as far as like if someone is unable to see it, like I can describe it to you. And it's like describe the color blue to a blind person. How do you do that? Well, psychology says blue happens to be a very tranquil color. So you'd probably spray lavender in the room and then that person's just instantly like more relaxed. It's called aromatherapy. So anyways, should I just show you the, and again, like it's, you see that? I just love doing this stuff. It's so, like, look at the colors of this, right? So it's like, I mean, to me, it's really enjoyable. Like it just brings so much just, right? Anyways, so that was a bit of show and tell, and that's some of the past, some of the recent past, some of the current. And so the past path, ooh, we'll go past. Some of the past path was like escapism type of creativity, escapism type art. So just think about people that they have like their favorite YouTuber and they're like, oh, I don't like being in law school. I'm so happy that you're able to have the life that I want to have or the life that I wish I had. But instead, I'm over here, doing something that I don't want to be doing because I'm going to go into a world that I don't want to be going into because I don't know myself enough to actually put my foot down and be like, you know what? I deserve that, right? And so where I found myself was that I realized like, hey, if I keep doing these certain things over here, typically and often the people that are doing these things experience these specific things. And then I realized, like, okay, well, let's just say I wanted to jump out of planes and take photos of beaches and travel. Could I could I do that while being on this particular path, right? I realized, like, I don't know. But then I also realized, like, okay, well, this certain thing that I'm looking at, it's beautiful. To me, it's artistic, and to me, I don't know, it just clicked and it made sense for some reason. So then I realized, like, the whole beautiful thing is like an inside job, isn't it? It is. The reason why creativity and the stuff you can create is an inside job is because I realized, like, all this information that I'm on, I have while on the path to this certain thing that maybe I do or don't want, how much of it is actually something that I found out myself? And I realized, like, everything that I know to be art or creative, I found out by myself. Every music I listen to, the people I follow on Instagram, people I follow on YouTube. So then I realized, like, I don't have to sit there and be like, oh, I'm happy that I get to use this YouTube channel or this Instagram account as escapism because I don't have to escape something anymore that I can embrace or something that I enjoy or something that I'm waking up every day to. And it's like, I'm so lucky I could do this. I'm so fortunate, right? And that's like a sense of fulfillment. And what I realized was that on this particular path that I was on by choice, I didn't feel like a failure or feel like a victim. I felt that I was, honestly, I was at a means to an end. I was like, I could just get to the end of it altogether. I could just say, nope, not for me. And choose to work on myself. And by definition, the things I create and the people I react and relate with and communicate with and work with is going to change forever. And it turned out to be true because the person who I was, the things I created, were in one way with a certain feeling. And then now that I do things my way, it's, well, beyond the fulfillment aspect of it, it's got a completely different intention. It relates to a completely different set of people. And I communicate with a completely different group of people that relate more to my new work. And they support the aspects that I'm focusing on because they're also focusing on those aspects internally as well. And so the whole reason why people that do things like, there's like YouTubers and all these influencers and stuff, and the reason that they're popular is because they're quite literally doing things that the followers wish they could do. And then there's other followers who follow them and are essentially getting ideas about, like, oh, I didn't know about that. And like that's kind of the, to me, 99% of why I'd use social media is because someone else is so in love with themselves that it's like, I didn't ever think about using that tool that way or doing that particular thing in that version, or oh, that's like a great hotel. I know why I would stay there regardless of the fact that you stayed there, right? So like that's where I my intention with social media is like, it's more of me being like show and tell versus being like, I'm doing this and you're not. So we're doing a Sonic here. So Yeah, so that was the past path. And then the current path, like I mentioned, was imagine the feeling of going to a concert, your favorite artist, and then they play your favorite song. So that feeling of ecstasy where you're singing your lungs out and nothing in the world matters other than you're listening to Kevin Parker and he's just right in front of you, right? Like that feeling of just like time stopping and everyone around you was there for the same reason, right? Imagine that same feeling, but then carrying that with you for the rest of your life. Essentially eternal optimism. And I realized that I had that. And I realized that in my own world, that's all I really need. And even for myself, it's like, how how does someone listening to this, like, why would they want to care about this? Well, I'll tell you. When I'm out in public, I I have this something I notice often is that I have this ability to just like connect with people, and it's connecting with people in like a very respectful way and in a very genuinely honest way. So what I found out was that the path that I was on was redundantly giving me the exact things I didn't want because I was focusing on those things. And then what I realized was that if I focused more on the things that I do want and the things that I do deserve and the things that are for me, aka self respect, loving myself, disciplining myself, growing as a person, I actually started to come across people who were doing those same things. And it just so happened to be that this is just the way that it is, and I'll say it for what it is like I started to get treated better. People started to notice what I was doing more. People wanted to be involved with things I've been doing. And people took my opinion seriously, and people actually supported me in a sense that it's like the support I had before was so that the giving kept happening. But then the support that I have now is so that the receiving keeps happening. And then the giving is now a choice. Whereas before, the receiving was a choice and the giving kept happening. So now the receiving is continuously happening and the giving is a choice. And what any of this means is like, for example, if you're on a skateboard and you're just standing on the skateboard, you're not going to go anywhere or do anything, right? So if you kick and push on your skateboard, you have momentum. Now, if you wanted to cruise on a skateboard, you might kick and push once or twice and you might go, I don't know, 50 feet or something, right? So, what I realized was that in the past life, I just kept kicking. And that doesn't really get you too far. I mean, it can get you somewhere really fast. I mean, you could keep kicking, but like you're gonna get tired, right? So what I realized was that if I'm on like a cruiser board, kick and I push, maybe even just once, I could go however far I could go. And then at some point I realized like, oh, I gotta maintain that. I gotta keep, you know. So that's where I'm on right now, is like Brian uses the bike analogy, where you essentially have to recognize the bike is going to be your mode of transportation. You got to recognize that you're going to go and pick up the bike. You also have to recognize that you have to pedal it such a way where the pedaling itself is so automatic that the journey of you pedaling to stay upright is the is really why you're there. And then the destination that you're going to get to is just It's a result of your efforts, yes. But when I think about how many times I've ridden a bike, I remember more of the times of like me pedaling with my arms like this. Like the destination was going to change every time, but the feeling and the overall enjoyment of just being like, I get to ride a bike. So like that's the intention of this video is change is awesome, but then being able to maintain the growth of change is like the reason. Like that's the why. The purpose of the video is, for me at least, it first started with me learning that I'm a kinetic learner, like I gotta touch and feel. But I also recognize that if I can articulate something, whether it be written word or whether that be spoken word, I'm able to hear what I'm saying, and my brain is able to digest the goodness and the graciousness of it. And what I realized is that as much as I want other people to listen to what I have to say, what I also notice is that out of all the things, this is the most fascinating part about all of it, because it's like something I heard growing up all the time is like the internet's always listening, right? And what I recognize is that just like with art, whatever people are going to interpret with what I'm saying, like I'm not in charge of, I'm only in charge of what I say, not what you understand. And then it became clear to me that like this past life that I was in, it was like these support groups, they might hear what I'm saying, but do they understand what I mean? And they might be looking at what I'm creating, but do they see the vision? Like it got to that point, and I was like, wait, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that I can actually be around people that are like me? And like I totally get the whole thing about being around people that you disagree with or that aren't like you, because like, it makes life spicy and different. But then it got to a point where I was like, man, what if I, because this is the position that I'm in now, it was like, what if I just go completely hermit mode? What kind of a life does that offer me? And how does that feel? And really, this is a kind of a way to be like, okay, well, ultimately, what any of this means is that, well, I want to see if am I in frame? There's a mirror right there. Anyways, in an honest sense, the past life was me distracting myself with the opinions and thoughts of others because I wanted to give people the love that I wasn't getting myself. And that eventually evolved into, okay, what versions of love would I love to have? And then it evolved into, wait, I can provide those same things to myself. And then it evolved into, okay, I have a back, so I'll have my own, right? I'll have my own back. And the reason that that became relevant was because in the past, I didn't have my best interest at heart as like priority number one. I had put myself as like 99th on the list. And then every other person just like filled up 1 to 98. And then I realized, like, okay, what kind of a life am I going to have going from essentially what is being a people pleaser giver to somebody who minds their own space and energy, time, and attention. And just very quickly, it's quite literally the opposite life. Where, I mean, put it this way too, right? And I respect everyone in their own walk of life because maybe we've gone down the same path before, and maybe you're doing things that maybe I might do. But if being alone is something that I find joy in, and it's easier for me to function. It's not that being alone is a means to functioning, but I love how I function alone. But that's also because I've learned how to function with people that I get along with. All of this is just a great way of saying, like, okay, there's got to be some standards and some things that I have to look out for myself with. So it's like one thing that, and I'll tell this to you, is that one thing that I've consistently done, both in the past life and this life, is remain single. And so in the past life, like, you get all excited and you want to, essentially tying in the friendship thing with the relationship thing, is like you want someone to feel the love that you essentially don't have, or you want someone to give you the love that maybe a parent never gave you, a sibling never gave you, a friend never gave you. You want someone else to be that for you. And so what I learned is that from time to time, you have to recognize what is worth doing. And what I recognized was that being physically involved or emotionally involved with women was a means to an end of pleasure. What I realized was that the kind of joy or pleasure or fulfillment that I would have being in a relationship is actually something that I can provide myself now. And having had been witness to all sorts of relationships and all sorts of marriages, I recognize that if I have myself, then really what that means is that I'll be in a relationship where that other person has themselves as well. So there isn't going to be like two people filling a half, but instead one and one becoming two. That to me is like what a relationship is. To this point, growing and realizing any of this, it's like I'd rather not be in a relationship, because the second that I find myself with somebody else, it's like that person's gonna get the best version of who I am. So I gotta be the best version of who I am at all times, and that's something I'm working on. That's something that in the past that wasn't even a priority of mine. Maybe it was, actually. Now I think about it, because I'm at this point. And so working out all of those creases and ironing out all those those spots was worth it, because again, to this point, like the consistency is that me realizing that the only other person that is going to see the best part of me is someone I'll have forever. And so that's something I also realized was I can, it was also in a sense disingenuous, to be honest, because why would I be with somebody who wants to be with me forever if I only wanted like a piece of them? And so I had to come to terms with that, because it's like, well, man, like, would I want somebody who just wants a piece of me? but not the whole me. And then I realized, like, wait, this is my signal. Because it happened. It literally happened. It was one way, and then it was another way the other way, and then I realized, like, man, I just gotta be on my own little cruise for a little bit. And so, having had been on that cruise, like I mentioned before, you meet supportive people, you meet optimistic people, you meet people that are loving themselves. And so, if you're listening to this, let this be I don't know what you would call it. I also think that some of the people, maybe they don't think about it this way, or heard about other alternatives to love and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, people got to hear about it, because people got to know that there's alternative versions of, like, doing the love thing, or having love, or having themselves even. That's what I'm finding out, is like the stuff that I'm learning about. I mean, I'm not saying that I've had it figured out, but what I'm saying is, like, I found other ways. And whether you find them or not, whether they're even helpful to you or not, it's like a completely different conversation. But we got the signal again. So yeah, I hope any of this makes sense to you. The next episode would be number 7, what I learned. What have you learned? So until then, take care. All the best.